Hey everyone, I'm so excited to be here with this incredible group of Arizonans who are independent minded and came to us from the Bobby Kennedy Jr. camp. They were working very hard to help Bobby Kennedy get elected. And as you know, Bobby Kennedy has decided to step aside and join President Trump and take his really important agenda and get that moving forward. As President Trump wins, which we are all hoping will happen, we're going to see not only America becoming great again, but we're going to make America healthy again, which as a mother makes me really, really happy. I'm joined with Paula and this incredible group. Paula, tell us a little bit about why you guys are here and how you feel about now as things are kind of moving, the Make America Healthy Again merging with Make America Great Again.
I'm excited. There's a lot of people that aren't excited, but I am, and the reason is I used to be a progressive Democrat, and the party left me when they made Bernie take the knee, and he was about taking care of Americans and helping us, I thought, for Medicare, because I really want to see all people taken care of. But when they did that, I left the party and just went independent and was voting third party, just to create a change, then get the debate stage. But now that I'm with Kennedy, I saw that didn't matter how many polls you had or whatever, they weren't going to let anyone on the stage. And
Pretty
it's so
scary.
corrupt.
It's really scary what's happened with the Democrat Party.
Yes.
Used to be the Kennedy Party, and then a Kennedy runs and they say, no, you can't come in. I mean, it's like the most shocking thing you can imagine. And I try to tell people when I'm on the campaign trail, this isn't the old Democrat Party. I feel like someone hijacked the Democrat Party. An ideology that's not even democratic hijacked the Democrat Party. So I'm excited that you guys are here. I know you have some questions, and what we'd love is to get the people who were previously supporting Bobby Kennedy. Obviously, we're wanting to make them Trump supporters if at all possible, and I think that is happening. But we would love to see that same kind of support come in our direction for this U.S. Senate seat.
Yes.
It would be really great. So you guys have some questions, I understand.
We do, and we all feel, most people feel that we need you there. Because if Kennedy gets into the White House administration with Trump, they need the team of people who are going to fight for them that are fiercely independent like you are, that you have an idea and you help support that.
That's great. Well, one of the things the Senate does, as all of you know, is the Senate confirms cabinet picks. And I foresee a day that Bobby Kennedy Jr. is sitting in a really important seat in the administration, and we got to have the Senate majority, because if we've got Chuck Schumer and the Democrats, you all saw firsthand what they did as you tried to work to get Bobby Kennedy on the ballots all over the country. I don't think it's going to go well if we don't have that Senate majority, so that's what we're working toward.
And by the way, you haven't seen some of these questions, but I'm going to ask you an easy one. Someone who couldn't...
I haven't seen any of them.
I know, you haven't. But this
I'm
is
nervous.
someone who said, and then we're going to go into some detailed ones, and I can let some of them ask their questions, and some of the people aren't here. But someone couldn't be here, and they said, their biggest question is, how do we help her?
Oh my gosh.
And how do we help her? Because they bought into this already.
That's great. I'm really glad. If you've asked, how do you help me, get involved. I know that many of you have been willing to donate your time and volunteer. We could use volunteers. Best thing you could do is vote for me. If you've got a mail-in ballot in your mailbox, get that puppy opened up, fill it out, and get it returned, or go vote early. And then tell your friends. Tell your friends who are independents and Democrat how important this election is. As I said, we're not really dealing with the old Democrat Party. They used to care about middle class. They used to care about our safety and our kids. And now we're watching some really crazy stuff happen. So that's how you can help.
Well, thank you. And that goes to me, that when I first found Bobby was with Children's Health Defense 8 years ago, before the pandemic and anything, on his vaccine safety, because we need safe vaccines. And one of the questions here was, when you get to office, are you going to legally hold Fauci, CDC, and who's responsible for the deaths due to the COVID vaccines? And how soon will you take action against them and help revamp these? Because we know Kennedy wants to revamp the CDC and the FDA, all of that. But how do you... What do you think you can do to help?
I think Anthony Fauci is one of the most dangerous people that's ever been born in America, to be honest, the things he's done. And Bobby Kennedy's book on Fauci was such an eye-opener. I can't believe that the media, well, I can believe, but the media should have, if we had honest reporters, taken that as a starting point. There are so many stories in there that should have been told of what he's done and the carnage really left behind from his career in Washington, D.C. We have to hold people accountable. You know, so much is happening now. Every day it seems like another assault on our rights and liberties and all of that, but we can't forget COVID. What that did to not only America but the world. It shut our economy down. It shut our businesses down. It shut our lives down. And what it did to our kids, I'm a mom of 2. It made me so mad, even if I think of it right now, my kids having to wear masks. I would just say, get those things off the minute we got home or got in the car. And I even told them, if you don't want to wear that mask, just take it down and I will support you no matter what. If you get in trouble at school, I'll pick you up and I will stand up and support you. But they said, well, Mom, we want to go to class and we have to do it to go to class. But the people who lost jobs, I was on the front lines protesting. We did mask protests. We did vaccine protests with professionals who were working in front lines who didn't want to have the vaccine. They wanted to keep their job. I fought with military who wanted to remain in the military but didn't want to have a forced vaccine. So many lives were destroyed, and now we're seeing what is left behind from the side effects of that shot. And it all needs to be addressed. It all needs to be addressed, and we need to have justice. We're forgiving people, but you don't forgive unless you've had justice. It's really hard to forgive unless you've had justice. And I think that there need to be some serious ramifications for what happened to us, what was forced on us during that time.
And with that said, before I'm going to ask Zach to ask his question, Senator Shamp here was on the front lines an ER nurse, and she worked 2 years and then was let go, because she wouldn't take the vaccine. So when you go to DC, they've been trying to do stuff there already. What would you do differently to help get that justice you're talking about that's already they're trying to work on in DC?
I think if we have the majority, right now, Ron Johnson, a senator from Wisconsin, I'm sure all of you know who he is. He's done some great stuff, but he's had to do it in his home state because they can't get the committees pulled together to give him permission to do this where it should be happening in Washington, D.C. So this is another reason getting the Senate is so important. If we have that majority, we're going to be able to move forward on this. And I really think when I say justice, I think there needs to be punishment. That needs to be followed up. Mm-hmm. What happened to us is just to slap somebody on the wrist and write a mean letter and say you did wrong. I really believe people need to go to jail for what happened during COVID, especially if we find out they were knowingly lying to us.
Yeah. Well, Ms. Kari, I think that they were lying to us. I was
making money
in healthcare, and I thought everything was the truth. I believed everything the news was telling us, everything the government was telling us, everything that Fauci was telling us. I got my shots. I was taking care of patients and trying to explain, the CDC, this is the recommendations. And it wasn't until I read Bobby Kennedy's book that my head exploded. I'm like, what? Our government is lying to us? I have been a compliant woman thinking I'm doing the right thing for myself and my family, my patients, and I felt so betrayed and lied to and upset and angry. And I don't want to carry this kind of feeling.
It's like a shock to the system. What we in some ways the wake up call we all got after COVID, I think, was a blessing. But what they put us through was just the absolute worst. Watching moms have to put a mask on a 2-year-old, and watching flight attendants have to force people to put masks on. I mean, it was just absolutely people losing jobs. I mean, my husband lost a lot of work because of it. He said, maybe I should just do the shot. And I said, no, I'd rather go hungry than have you get that shot. We don't know enough about it.
Well, so thankful for strong people who, eventually the word got to me. My eyes were open, and that's what I feel like Kennedy and people who have spoken up have woken up citizens that we have been compliant and listening and to the wrong people. We're getting the wrong message, and I think you were part of journalism and the media. I think the media is.
I left my job when COVID struck because I realized that, oh my gosh, the information being put out isn't truthful, or it's a tiny little bit of truth, but there was a whole bunch that wasn't being told. That was the really important part. And when I realized that I could not get the truth out, I said, I can't just do this, accept a paycheck, and hurt my community, divide people, make people angry, fill them with fear, because there was so much fear mongering going on, and not a willingness to interview doctors who had a different perspective, which turns out now was the correct perspective. And I just, my husband who's here with us today, I remember coming out of my office one night after doing a newscast, because half of us were sent home so we wouldn't spread COVID. And I said, I can't do this anymore. But leaving a really big paycheck was hard. I'm going to be honest. A lot of people had to face that. Do I leave my job or be forced to do this? And we just prayed on it and decided that God would have our back. We can't do something that is wrong or immoral, and stepped away. I had no idea I'd end up in the middle of politics after that. Thought I would go live quietly somewhere and just enjoy a peaceful life, but here we are.
How did you end up in politics after all that?
That's how I put the video out. I want to get to the questions, but I'll tell you quickly. Yeah. I put the video out to tell the people of Arizona why I was leaving. I didn't want to just disappear after 27 years in people's homes and then go, why did she leave? So I put a video out just thanking everybody for watching and explaining why I was leaving. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do next, but God will have my back, and I don't want to lie to you. I want to be truthful, and so I can't do this job anymore. That thing went viral overnight. I thought it would get a little bit of, attention, and people would go, oh, that's why she's leaving. It went viral overnight. I woke up the next day to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails and text messages that just kept continuing. And one of the things people kept saying is, would you please run for office? We need someone like you. Understand the state. We all know you. You are courageous, and you understand the issues. And so at first I thought, oh, hell no. You must be crazy. You must think I'm crazy. I'm leaving the world of fake news, the corrupt world of fake news, and you want me to go into the even more corrupt world of politics?
That's right.
But I thought about it, and enough people kept saying it. I thought, it's one thing when a couple people say something, but when it's over and over, maybe God is trying to nudge me. And so we jumped into politics, and it's been crazy.
Thank God.
Yeah. So,
because you're not getting censored as much either.
Yes, it's nice to have the freedom to speak. Okay.
Oh, you need to read.
Oh, he wants to read the question.
I gotta make sure I get it right here.
You can ask whatever's in your heart too.
Yeah, totally. A lot of us are really into health, right? Like that's what brought me to Bobby. I've been on a health journey for over 10 years, where I had some health issues and realized it was a lot of what I was eating and how the medicine in this country is used to treat symptoms and not underlying causes, and how it's just getting people hooked on drugs, and our food supply is awful.
Yeah.
As part of the Senate, what would you do to make our food supply better and get rid of this ultra-processed, chemically ridden, genetically modified food that is hooking our children and getting them addicted to sugar and chemicals?
Well, first of all, the food pyramid that the government puts out is, I don't know if they still call it the food pyramid, but the food guidelines that the government puts out, we've got a lot of, the people who are creating some of these unhealthy chemicals that are behind those suggestions on what we're eating. We need to pull those kind of people out. Lobbyists for these big conglomerates should not be deciding that. We need true people who understand health and nutrition in there. And I think we need to completely revamp that, although many people are waking up on their own and realizing, I'm not going to listen to what the government tells me to do and what to eat. I'm going to do my own research. But we need that research to be out there for others to see. Research that's not being paid for by big pharma or, I don't know what they call big food, but you know what I'm talking about, the conglomerates that make, is that what they call it, big ag? So,
they're all big something.
Yeah.
Our government.
And all of those big ag and big pharma and the military-industrial complex are all supporting my opponent, by the way.
Yeah.
So, I don't have all the answers, but I want to see people like Bobby and others like him who would come in and say, here's how we should transform this. Because we want to make sure that what we put in place is not just another, not program, but another entity that's going to eventually get corrupted. We got to find a way to make sure we keep the corruption out on this kind of stuff, and make sure our kids are getting healthy food. We want to make sure. I'm from an ag state. I grew up in Iowa, so a lot of food was grown there. Food that we eat, but also food that our the corn that our cows and our pigs and all that eat as well. So we want to make sure that everything is healthy, and we're not polluting the land and making for growing and farming dangerous for generations to come. I don't have all the answers on that. That's why President Trump has tapped Bobby Kennedy, and not me for that.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that we're taking
But you're
some
supportive of all.
100%. You know, I've got kids myself. I knew what the government was pushing was
Yeah.
when they said eggs are bad.
I know.
I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm not going to believe this. And then they, you know, even things like SPF. We're finding out. I've never felt comfortable when you look at the bottle and you see all those ingredients, and then you go, wait, you want me to slather this on the biggest organ in my body and bake in the sun? I don't know about this.
And
Maybe I'll just sit in the shade a little bit. So I worry about a lot of it, not just the food, but the chemicals in our products, the chemicals in our water, shampoos, all of that stuff. When you start looking at the ingredients, you're like, why do they need all of that, and what is that? So I think we need to look at a lot of that. We should be healthier as a nation. The rates of childhood obesity, the rates of diabetes, chronic disease, and big pharma is about profit,
Yes.
not about health.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we
And
can
so-
adopt what the European countries do. They ban like over 2,000 chemicals,
Yeah.
probably more now. But even just starting there and banning some of these chemicals is a good start.
Yeah, I think I just saw something about celiac disease or something like that, how it didn't exist before. It doesn't exist. People who have it don't have the same symptoms when they're eating food products from other countries. That the way that the food is grown over there is different. So I want to explore all of it. I just want a healthier country, healthier kids. What you are, what you eat is what they used to say. And if we're eating a bunch of chemicals, poisons, and food dyes and junk, then we become very unhealthy, as we've seen.
Zach and his lovely wife are pregnant with a baby in one.
Oh my gosh, that's so
So they want you to straighten this out for their little baby.
Yes.
It's
Is this
too
your
hard.
first?
Yes.
Yes.
It's too hard for. Luckily, we're fortunate, and we have the means and the ability and the knowledge to go and seek out healthy foods. But low-income people,
That's
like
right.
they don't have access to the same things that we have access to. It's much more expensive to eat healthy, and you know, a lot of behavioral problems can come from this.
That's
and
right.
if you think of the lower income communities and how they're affected and how they're never going to be able to step up because they're not healthy.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, we make warning signs on all kinds of things, but there's no warning on the junk food that says what you're about to eat could affect you in ways that you have no idea. And so we want to make sure you've had the time, and because of whatever you've gone through with your health, to research that and really dig into it. But the information is not readily available.
Right.
And even I was listening to an interview from a medical doctor who said that they didn't learn anything. It was like maybe an hour or two on nutrition.
Yeah.
And it might not have even been accurate what they learned in that hour or two.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely.
They're funded by the Big Act.
Yeah.
But that's a question that Kate over here asked. She wanted to know why in the United States children have to take 70 vaccines in order to go to school. What can address this? But more importantly, they're about to have a baby, and before they're 1 year old, they give so many shots to these babies. And I feel like my children, I'm in my 60s, were vaccinated, and my daughter was one of those with chronic illness, and she had rheumatoid arthritis 16. She had dropped out of a dance team, out of school, all of her activities, and I really take it to this autoimmune chronic disease affecting our kids, and there are correlations with that. But how do we protect this newborn from having so much and the kids going to school? Do you believe something should be done about that?
Yeah, if you would have asked me this question before COVID, I would have said, of course, naturally, we need all of this. COVID woke me up, and it woke a lot of people up. Why are we injecting babies with this much? And plus, when you learn about the vaccine companies, that they have no liability. No other company anywhere gets where they have no liability. And so we need to actually change that immediately. I think they're working on it right now.
Fantastic.
I've heard they're working on it, but it's not going to happen until after this election. And it's made me rethink even some of the shots I got my own kids. Can't go backwards, but we certainly should stop, pause, and think before we continue to push these same guidelines. Thankfully, with religious exemptions, there's an ability to avoid that. But I have a very close friend who just had a baby about 6 months ago. She couldn't find a pediatrician who would would become their pediatrician if they didn't get the shots.
Right.
So there's a lot of force by the medical associations that are out there to force doctors into forcing this mentality and this on our
They
parents.
can't operate without vaccines.
Yeah, because it's
Because
profit
there's so much
driven.
money.
Yeah.
Our
So I've been in
government
health.
incentivizes
Yeah,
us.
I've
They
been in
get
health
paid.
insurance for 10 years,
Yeah.
and so I see all people's EOBs when they get vaccines and all this stuff. These doctors push vaccines for money because
They can
they
find the seeds.
they can't operate their office without it. So that's why they won't take patients that won't get vaccines, because that patient won't make them money.
Wow.
And
This
those
is
that
just
do, it's just not easily accessible to everybody unless you have the
Right.
means to.
this is just crazy. We got to fix this. We definitely have to fix this.
Mm-hmm.
And help parents who don't want to do that be able to find a doctor that will be able to help them, because you want to have you want to have a pediatrician when you have a baby,
Right.
But if you can't find one who's willing to take you, it's really being coerced into doing something that you don't believe in for your child.
And it's all fear based.
Mhm.
Right, even us, when we go to the doctor's appointments now, they want her to get a COVID vaccine.
Oh my
They want her
gosh.
to get the flu vaccine.
Yeah.
And
And I'm sure there'll be
RSV.
more once they hit
yeah,
30 mark,
and
36
it's all
mark.
there's posters up. It's all fear based.
Well,
They
I
make you
just got
feel
in
like-
the mail, and this is probably the 6th time since COVID, the government is still sending us COVID tests. I've never asked for one. It comes in a like urgent mail delivery, and I'm like, what is this? I go, are you kidding? 2 more COVID test kits coming our
Oh my
way?
God.
This
Yeah.
just came in the mail yesterday. And they've been coming sporadically, and it's paid for by the government.
Yeah, by us.
It's
by
our
us.
taxpayers, our dollars. I'm like,
Yeah.
I've never used any of them. We throw them away. We don't want them. Stop sending them, and more importantly, stop spending money on this.
Yes, They're probably sending them to Ukraine also.
Anything's possible. But we got to hit the big ones: the economy, the border,
Yeah.
crime, safety on our streets. We do need to deal with the drug problem, but that also ties into the border.
Yeah.
When we shut down the illegal activity at the border, people always say, "How do we get the chronic street homelessness fixed?" We got to stop the drugs from coming in, and we have to take on the cartels. Not just secure the border. We have to take on the cartels. And I know President Trump will do that. So I try to kind of focus on this, on the real top 5 big issues.
Right.
And I'm not saying what you're talking about isn't a big issue, because if some of that turns out to be true, that's real
That's right.
big
Well,
stuff.
and I'm curious about the source of it. There's been so much different talk. I found, there's information that'll say, oh, well, it's Bill Gates. And I'm like, well, that's waving all kinds of red flags for me.
Yeah.
And is it the military? And then why wouldn't the people be able to know about it? So it's such a mixed
Yeah,
bag.
I think on a broader scale, what she's talking about too is just transparency
Yeah.
from the government to the people. There's no sort of transparency.
Well, and that's
at
the
all. They
problem. So
constantly
you
lie
start
to
reading
us.
something on that, or you start reading about the COVID shot, or you read about health, and you go, gosh, what we've been told isn't true. So then if I can't believe what they're saying about nutrition, then I can't believe what they're saying about this shot because they didn't give us all the information. How can I believe anything? I don't want to be living in a world where we have to think every single thing our government's telling us isn't true, or we have to look at it very skeptically. And we should look at things skeptically.
Well, one of
But-
the top big things on your top 5 on the border, when I went to your Back the Blue,
Mhm.
I saw Sheriff Lamb there.
Mhm.
And the next day I went to see Tulsi and RFK. Sheriff Lamb was coming in. I talked to him, and he was on stage talking about Kennedy's support. The first thing Kennedy said when he came out was he's going to be on our team to fix the border. What is your knowledge of how much of a plan of Kennedy's to close the border is in line with some of your beliefs, and like Sheriff Lamb?
Yeah, well, I haven't looked at Kennedy's plan
Okay,
to
okay.
shut the border, but I think I already know a great plan to shut it, and it was the one that President Trump did. I covered the state for, as I said, 27 years, and over that time we heard every politician, oh, we got to shut down the illegal activity at the border, stop all of this. Nobody ever did it, except for one time, for a brief window when President Trump did it, and we saw it work. So we got to go back to what works, and we have to do it immediately. But in addition to that, we have to start coming down after the cartels. And I agree with President Trump. Death penalty for people trafficking drugs.
Yes.
This isn't just, oh, they're trafficking drugs. Oh, they didn't kill anyone. Yeah, they did kill somebody. They're killing people every day. And the carnage left behind. And the minute you start getting serious with the drug traffickers, we're going to see things really freeze up on that side. And then we have to get serious going after the CCP and China. They're the ones bringing the precursors over. This administration, the current one, isn't going to do anything. They're controlled by China. President Trump will take on that fight. And so I'm just firmly with his plan on the border. And then we're going to have to do finish the wall, obviously, and look at the millions of people who poured in. I call it during the Biden invasion. They're unvetted. We know they're convicted criminals. We know we've got terrorists who are roaming around in our country right now. And I believe we have to repatriate them back to their homeland. I always say in order to save our homeland, they got to go back to their homeland. We'll get them a ticket back to their loved ones because we want to save our country. And this is unsustainable. Unsustainable on every level, economically, unsustainable when it comes to our the supply and demand on just housing right now. Everyone wonders, why are the rent prices going up? Oh, well, we just brought 21 million people in, and now we only have this many homes and this many apartments, and we have this many people. So
I'll give myself less points for that. Ship them home.
Yeah. And we can do it. Someone said, well, you mean we're going to put them on a plane and send them back? Yeah, we're putting them on a plane and sending them to New York and Colorado and all other places. Let's stop doing that and send them back home.
I travel a lot for my nonprofit. I help mitigate trauma with our youth. And I'm at the airport and I see those people with the shackles on their feet, with families being shipped off different places.
When you take red eyes, by the way,
Yes.
I take a lot of red eyes, it is crazy at night. That's when they send to put everybody on the planes because they don't really want all of us seeing all of this.
No, they don't.
And that's why they started the new CB1 app, I think is what it's called. And that they knew that it was looking too bad having everyone cross the border. They said, well, you just sign up for asylum and we'll fly you in.
Yep.
This is how much our government hates us. It's disgusting.
So on that topic about restoring trust and government corruption, following Kennedy's campaign really opened up my eyes to the dirty tricks that go on behind the scenes, not just in the Democratic Party, but a lot of the stuff that's going on. And then I guess now 2 attempted assassinations on former President Trump. And I was a huge John F. Kennedy fan growing up, so the assassination really just kind of hit home because I always wanted to see what the rest of his presidency would have been like.
Oh my gosh. Think how different the world would be.
Exactly. And so going down those rabbit holes, and I won't get into a lot of details, but the explanation that makes the most sense to me about why these problems aren't getting fixed and why the government is so dysfunctional is because it's really operating as an organized criminal syndicate and not operating as a legitimate government. It seems like Congress gets stonewalled by federal employees. The truth never comes out. Secret Service has deleted text messages. The FBI, I think, has been pushing off January 6th stuff for 4 years now. And it seems almost as if we've lost power and control over a lot of these federal agencies, the CIA, the FBI, and whatnot. What could you do as senator, or what would you do as senator to restore the trust in these agencies, get the people who are conducting criminal activity out of there, and hopefully in jail, and not just we're going to ask you to retire?
No. We gotta have justice, guys, on this stuff. Our government's been weaponized against us, not just against President Trump, against us. And if we find out, I want to see the files on that. The story doesn't make sense. The magic bullet. I mean, we go to the shooting range all the time. I've never seen a bullet that had the capability of doing what that magic bullet did, moving in that direction. So we need to get to the bottom of this. The DOJ has been absolutely used and weaponized against us. I agree with President Trump. We need the FBI, but we've got to revamp it. And we have to get rid of the corrupt individuals who are running these. Oftentimes it's not the person at the top, the cabinet pick from the current president, whoever it is. It's that layer just below, the ones who never leave, and they are the permanent bureaucracy. And they're very powerful, and they're the ones really controlling that agency. And then when you think about it and expand it out, they're corrupt, they're controlling that agency, and they're really controlling the whole government. This is why we need to do an absolute overhaul of our government. And I think many departments we can actually shrink up or get rid of. Absolutely. The only person who's going to have the, and I'm not going to say the word balls, I'm going to say courage, to do that is this administration with President Trump. We know that. He's not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid. I'm going to D.C. not to make friends. I mean, they've already tried to bribe me out of even running. They don't want me there. The lobbyists probably hate me. If they don't, they probably will. And I'm going there to clean it up. And we need people in D.C. who are going to clean it up. And I don't know what, where I'll end up and what committees I'll be on, but this is absolutely imperative. We cannot leave Washington, D.C. even close to the way it is right now when this next term is up. It's got to be cleaned up. When they say drain the swamp, hose it down, bleach it out, and do what's necessary. And I know that President Trump is going to assemble a great team to do just that. I want to, with my expertise in the media, hold big corporate media accountable. Why?
Yeah.
I've been saying this for months. I noticed President Trump just said it. Why are we giving up these FCC broadcast licenses to people who are committing fraud on the people? These outlets are committing fraud on us when they're lying to us. When they're lying to us about whether it be COVID or anything else. War, when they're getting involved with pushing a political campaign over another one, election interference, and we're giving them an FCC broadcast license. Those things are highly coveted, and we need to re-examine who we're giving them to and why we are and what they've been doing to the people. Because the most dangerous thing in this country right now, I think even over all the things we've mentioned today, is the media.
Yeah.
Because why did you never learn about all of the things you now know about when it comes to food and nutrition? Because the media never told you about it. They filled your head with things that weren't true. And I want to make sure we don't leave that legacy to our kids, just more constant lying coming from the media. So I know, I keep seeing Nick is telling me we have to wrap things up. I didn't get to all of your questions, but I'd be happy to take a look at them really quick.
And most
got to
of
most
them,
of them.
and the only last one that was Donna's about your abortion stance, and you answered it really well in the debate. If you could say 2 sentences on that, what you said, maybe that, and we're really so grateful for you taking the time.
I'm grateful for you guys.
Answering
Well, let
these.
me
These are hard
talk
questions,
really
so thank
quickly
you.
on abortion. Everyone here might have a little different opinion about abortion, and everyone here is going to get a chance to vote. We're going to have a choice between two: the current law, which was bipartisan, signed into law by both a Democrat and a Republican, or this measure that's on the ballot. And I will respect whatever the voters decide. Ruben Gallego knows that this is not going to be decided at the federal government. It was sent back to the states. He doesn't care. He wants to use this as an issue that divides our state. He has nothing on me, and he wants to just make me the bad guy. And so he spent $40 million in ads on abortion. If you think how many women and children that could help, it's mind-boggling. It's not going to be decided by us in the Senate. Now, he wants to take our choice to decide as a state and as women and men in this state to decide what our law is going to be and take it back to the federal government. And I'm not for that. I will never, though, decide and vote for a federal abortion ban if it were to come up. I really believe it should be falling at the state level. I think a lot of more things should be falling at the state level for the people of the state. And I also don't think it's wise or prudent or constitutional to spend our federal tax dollars funding abortion. So that's where I stand on abortion. I may have a different view personally on what choices I would make than other people at this table, and that's okay. We're going to get a chance to vote, and I will respect the law that we get. But I do want to make sure that we're pushing for legislation that makes it easier for people to choose to have their baby. Because so many choices right now on abortion are for women who say, I can't afford it, or I don't think I can take care of a baby. And we're not telling them about adoption. We're not telling them about financial services that would be available. It pains me to think any woman would walk into an abortion clinic because she can't afford her baby, have an abortion, walk out of that clinic, turn on the news and see that Ruben Gallego just voted for $60 billion more to Ukraine. And she just made that decision because she didn't feel she could afford her baby. I don't want to see that. And we need to bring up the population. I mean, the biggest lie, one of the biggest lies the media's been telling is that we're overpopulated. No, we're watching a population collapse right before our eyes, and no one is sounding the alarm. So I'd like to encourage families to be started, and I'd like to encourage more people to have babies. And we can do that no matter what the law is. I learned a lot when I went to Hungary. It really changed my whole perspective because I learned that they had cut the number of abortions in half. over a very short window of time. And so the next day I was sitting with Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary, and I said, how did you do that? You cut the number of abortions in your country in half. You didn't even touch the laws. The law didn't matter to them. He said it was going to take too long to try to pass laws. And we knew we were having a crisis with our population collapsing, so we started encouraging families. You get a tax bonus if you get married. You get another 1% break if you have a baby, another one for the second baby. By the time a woman has 4 babies, they never pay taxes again. And they saw the baby population rise. Families are growing. Exactly. But then they went a step further because businesses said, well, we'd also like to get people back into the workforce. And what about childcare? And they said, okay, we'll give a tax break to grandparents who are willing to step aside or to actually jump in and help take care of their grandbabies. Because we know that's if it's not mom and dad, grandparents are second best. Well, grandparents might actually be first best, I don't know. So they really became a very pro-family country. You see it when you go there. You walk down the streets and there's so many families and children running. And we need that. We need it. We can't we've seen what happens when you when you see your population go down and you have to import a population. Look at Europe, it doesn't work. It doesn't work here. And I also want to end on this. I'm the youngest of 9, and it was hard. We didn't have any money. We did go hungry. Oftentimes, we didn't have food because my parents were very proud. And back then, you just didn't. There wasn't a lot of places to go to ask for help, and so we struggled. But we had a lot of love. We learned a work ethic, and I know that no matter what happens to me, I have a work ethic and I can survive. But I'm so glad that we had that big family. There's so much joy in a big family, and I don't want to tell anybody they have to have a big family, but there's joy in that. If you ask any mother on the planet what her greatest achievement and accomplishment is, even if she's the most accomplished businesswoman or achieved great things like in a career, her greatest joy and achievement will always be that she was a mother and her children. And I don't want to take that option away from people. I want more women to know that because it really is such a blessing. So I thank you guys for your help. I know many of you are donating your time. And if we can bring more people over and let them know that we're much more aligned with the things that matter to this core group of Kennedy supporters than the Democrat, especially than my Democrat opponent. So thank you guys.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. You're so wonderful.
And congratulations on your debate. You were amazing.
Thank you.
It was so good to see.
I thought I was going to have to debate the moderators too, and I was like, they were actually pretty fair.
They were.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to wrap me up, but I couldn't see them, so I was just talking. I'm like, oh, they'll stop me when they want me to.